Hey everyone, what's up? This is Sonia Blade, and you're listening to What's Up, Sonia Blade. I have today guest Mugabi Byenkya. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast, big fan of you getting into the podcasting arena. And so it is my honor and my privilege to be a guest.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of you. I remember when I met you. That's actually one of those memories that I have that, I will never forget because I can't remember the name of the bar that we were at, but it was my neighbor's partner at the time. She was performing. Why? You were there, and I just remember seeing this guy dancing, but dancing. No one was watching him and just having a good time. And what struck me was there was just this energy about you, but you were living in the moment, you know. And every club you go out, you always see one person, but it was just an energy. It was just, wow, this guy is just living. And then we got to, start talking, and you told us, me and my friend, a bit of your story. From there, it was, wow, pretty amazing guy. So
Thank you.
that was a great night, actually.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I remember that day was yesterday too, because I remember I had bumped into and your friend previously at this other event, and they had invited me to come watch them perform, and I went. And I was just trying to meet people in the city because I was new to Toronto, and I was trying to find especially poetry communities or spoken word communities. And I remember just having a blast with that performance because it was amazing. And I remember for me, whenever I'm enjoying myself, I just let loose and I just, wherever the feeling takes me. And I remember talking to you and your friend afterwards about different spoken word or poetry venues. And the one that you recommended me to check out was actually the first time that I've ever been paid to perform poetry. And that set me on a path that I'm on today. And so thank you.
No problem. I always say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? So it's like you meet people, and I think about it more so now. Doing this podcast is everybody that I've met in some way have come around full circle, and doing this podcast, they've inspired me in some sort of way. So I think it's just sort of destiny, the universe putting people together.
Definitely.
So you are you're an artist, you're a writer, you're a poet, you're a hip hop artist or a rapper. You do a little bit of rap here and there. Tell people a little bit about your story.
In terms of my artistic story, personal story, or a mix of both?
I got a mix of both. So let's get into your personal story because your personal story, I think, is very inspiring.
Okay. So my personal story. So I come from a very privileged background growing up. My father used to work for the United Nations Development Program, the UNDP. And so when I was born, we were posted to Nigeria. And every 3 or 4 years, they moved me and my family to different countries. So it was me, my mom, and my 4 siblings. And so I was born in Nigeria. When I was 3, we moved to Sudan. When I was 6, we moved to Bangladesh. When I was 9, we moved to Cambodia. When I was 13, we moved to Thailand for a couple of months. And then my dad passed away. And when he passed away, all that, privilege that we had with him went away with him because the UNDP was the one which was paying for our school. It was the one which was giving us a house. It was the one which gave us a car. It was the one which would give us a flight back home every year, And so we were living this lifestyle, but it was off of benefits from my dad's job, right? And so when he was gone, all of a sudden I was thrust into a 2-bedroom apartment with 10 to 15 people, really grimy, hadn't been renovated since the 60s. There was a couple alcoholics who were volatile living in the apartment, and that was a very, very jarring shift for me. And I also realized that my mom was trying to still make sure that we were all properly educated, but she didn't have the financial means to do so.
Yeah.
And so she reached out to the UNDP and they directed her to this education loan that she could apply for. And she told me, Mugabi, if you're good at math, you're good at the computers, figure this out for me. And so I started applying for these loans for me and my four siblings from 2005 until 2020 when my little sister just graduated from university. And all those loans paid for all my siblings' education. And we also got scholarships and different sorts of funding to help supplement that. But it was, in hindsight, a lot of responsibility at an early age. But
Yes.
for me at the time, I was just thinking, I'm trying to help my mom out. And my priorities were helping my mom out and doing well at school so that she wouldn't have to worry about that. And in terms of related to that, so I am also a three-time stroke survivor, right? I had my first stroke when I was 9 years old. And this
Wow.
was when my family was in Bangladesh at the time. Yeah. And yeah, a 9-year-old having a stroke is, nobody hears about that, because
Yeah.
it's so rare. Strokes are very common in people who are, maybe 60 plus, having been smoking for the past 40 years, and I had none of those factors in my life that would leave me prone to a stroke. And
Yeah.
so the doctors couldn't really figure it out. They had a couple of theories, but nothing concrete. They told my parents that I probably wouldn't make it to see my 10th birthday. And so my parents are freaking out, but they didn't pass any of that on to me.
Yeah.
And they were just trying to figure it out and try to get me all the help that I needed. And eventually I was able to get into a doctor who was able to figure out the fact that it wasn't going to kill me, but I'd be disabled for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
the right side of my body is completely paralyzed. I had to learn how to do everything with the left side of my body because I used to be right-handed. And I was in a wheelchair for a number of months. I had to learn how to walk again, how to do basic tasks with my right hand and my right leg. It was strenuous and arduous and grueling and excruciating physical therapy for 9 years of my life. And for a long time, I thought that my disabilities made me inferior to other people.
Yeah.
So I learned how to sort of pass as able-bodied. And sort of move through the world in a way where people wouldn't really notice. And then when I was 22, I had two other strokes, which happened within a week of each other. And those two strokes brought on a whole set of other disabilities, a seizure disorder, a migraine, not chronic headache, chronic pain all over my body, chronic fatigue, photophobia, hyperacusis, increased migraines, and those ones significantly affected me cognitively in ways that the first one didn't. Because with the first one, physically I was affected, but my mind wasn't affected. With this one, my mind was definitely affected, and I couldn't do the things I used to be able to do. And so that came with a lot of grief of the life that I was supposed to live. And a lot of different doctors and a lot of the same narrative of you aren't going to make it to see a 24 this time because it was right before my 23rd birthday. And, then eventually found the doctors who were, no, you'll live, but you just have to learn how to manage your disabilities as best as you can. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years, just trial and error, just trying to figure things out.
And how old are you now?
I am 32 now.
32. So
yes,
10 years ago. Your last stroke. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to take on. I can't even imagine at 9 years old. I mean, at 47, I was sick. I lost my mobility. I didn't have a stroke, but I had high blood sugars, which led to a lot of other things. And that was a lot to take on at 47 years old. I'm 49 now, so I can't imagine, what goes through a 9-year-old's head or a 22-year-old's head when you're so young. How do you handle all this?
So when I was 9, a lot of what was going through my head was a lot of anger. I was very, very, very angry at the world because I was young and why is this happening to me just out of the blue, Why can't the doctors figure it? Because I was used to getting sick, going to the doctor and, getting better, I wasn't used to getting sick and then, being disabled for the rest of your life and that being something that you have to live with. And so there was a lot of anger towards the world, towards the universe, towards everything around me, towards the doctors. And I had people around me who like were very, very supportive, but I also feel a lot of that anger was um suppressed,
Yeah.
fortunately, because I didn't really know how to express it. Other than listening to very loud, angsty rock music and just headbanging.
Metallica.
Exactly. uh, and then when I was 22, there was anger, but this time I went to go see a therapist. And I was trying to explain to him what I was going through. And I was, I'm feeling, this, but I understand why I'm feeling this. And then he was, why do you keep on trying to justify your anger? It's
Yeah.
okay to be angry? And that was the first time that I felt somebody gave me permission to be angry and to
Yeah.
express that anger. And so like then I started being more vocal about my anger and just expressing it. And that was a release. And therapy significantly helped me with dealing with all the mental parts of everything that I was dealing
Yeah.
with physically. It didn't help me physically at all, but it helped me with the depression, it helped me with all the mental health effects of my disabilities. And when I was 22, there was a lot of grief, as I said. There was a lot of relating my experiences to what my father went through when he passed.
Yeah.
Because my father had strokes, he was bedridden, he lost control of his bowel movements, he was suicidal, and so I was tick 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 all these things my father went through, I'm going through, and my father was sick for 9 months, then he died, and so a large part of me thought because all these doctors said I was gonna die that I only had 9 months left to live.
Wow. Yeah.
Uh, and so I started reaching out to friends and just writing sort of goodbye letters, but I didn't say they were goodbye letters, but they were. It was
Yeah.
me saying goodbye to people. And then when I didn't die, I was, oh, then ever since then, I've honestly felt I've been living on borrowed time. And so that's why I just try to move through the world with just zeal for life as possible, because I've constantly been told by doctors that I'm not supposed to be alive. I'm not supposed to be alive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna make the most of every single day.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what led to me dancing the way I was when we
Yeah.
met.
I felt that. I mean, I feel that. I felt that with you. Even I think we've only hung out one other time, and even in that moment, I felt you were just embracing that moment every hour, every minute. And I think that's so. I mean, sometimes it takes those hard things to make you realize life is short and everything change, and so you got to embrace the moment while you can embrace it. Just live in it. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Just be in that moment.
No, exactly. 100% agree. Yeah, life is way too short to be worried about what other people think. And it's sad because I see so many of my friends, sort of stifle themselves or fold into themselves because of what other people think. And I know that's because I used to be that when I was younger. But if there's one thing that my strokes when I was 22 taught me is that, life is too short and I have to make the most of every moment. Also because my health, it's not, stable now. I just had a flare up this weekend. Saturday I was out of commission. Sunday I was working towards recovery, and now I'm back to my baseline. But like for example, 2020 to 2022, I had a 2 year long flare up. I was largely bedridden for the entire 2 years. And so for me, it's especially not taken for granted because I don't know when these flare ups come. I don't really know what the rhyme or reason is to them. I know sometimes they're triggers to them, but sometimes there aren't. And so I just have to try my best to make the most of every moment because I don't know when, there'll be a time where I won't be able to do that anymore. And where I'll just have to rest and, wait for it to pass.
I know you wrote a book about your experience and you put all that energy into your creative. So tell people about your book, Dear Philomena.
Yeah, yeah. So, dear Philomena or Philomena, depending on how I pronounce it. I personally pronounce it Philomena, but it's a potato thing. It's just because my mom pronounces it Philomena.
Yeah.
So that to call the story of one boy, one girl, two strokes, and a whole lot of magical realism. because the story starts with me in my mother's womb and my mother having this checklist, like when you're a kid, you have these things of, oh, when I grow up, I'll marry this type of person and I'll have this many kids. And, and so my mom, when she was a kid, she was, I'm going to marry somebody who's kind, empathetic, and caring. I'm going to have 4 kids. I'm going to have girl, boy, boy, girl. And, I'm going to have a career, that's in service to people. And she ended up, becoming a nurse, marrying my dad, who fit all her criteria. Had my eldest sister, had my 2 older brothers. And then when she was expecting me, the doctors told her, you're expecting a baby girl. And she was super excited. She was over the moon. She was, oh my goodness, all my dreams of, being checked off, from childhood. And so she chose the name Philomena for that baby girl, or Philomena. And she picked out a bunch of pink frilly dresses and bonnets and all these super feminine clothing. And when she gave birth to me, the doctors said, congratulations, he's a boy. And my mom's like, what do you mean he's a boy? You said he's going to be a girl. And they were like, oh, well, mistakes happen. And she was like, what do you mean mistakes happen? And so to this day, my birth certificate literally reads baby Byenkya because she didn't have a name. And she was so set on Philomena, and she was so shocked in that moment that she was just put down baby and I'll figure it out later. And for the first couple months of my life, I was dressed up in all those pink Philly dresses, all those bonnets. Because she was your Philomena, And she always tells me the story of Philomena is who you're supposed to be, and she says that I have certain attributes that have a feminine energy to them. And that's because you're supposed to be Philomena, right? And she keeps on mentioning both physical attributes, things like my eyelashes, but also she notices things in my spirit that she says are more feminine than masculine. And she's like, that's because you were supposed to be Philomena. And so I took the story of Philomena as who I was supposed to be, and I fleshed out this character of how differently would my life have been if I was born, assigned female at birth, and was born as, the girl that my mother wanted me to be, How differently would gender roles and society have shaped me? Because, sexism exists, the patriarchy exists, and women move through the world completely differently than men do,
Absolutely.
And then I took it a step further, and I was, how differently would my life have been if I was able-bodied for my entire life? If I hadn't had these strokes, if I wasn't disabled, if, I was moving through the world as an able-bodied person for my entire life and had never had to deal with any of the things that I had to deal with being disabled. And then I took it a step further, and I was, how differently my life would be if I was born Muslim, because half of my family is Muslim. I have a lot of cousins and aunties and uncles who are all Muslim, because in Uganda there's a lot of, there's a large Islamic population. There's a large population of all different religions, but it's not one family is only tied to one religion, And so I go to the mosque with my cousins and uncles and aunties, and they come to church with me, and it's like all chill, But Islamophobia affects people, differently, say, outside of Uganda, than it does inside of Uganda, right?
Yeah.
And so I took these 3 different things that had defined my life, put them in Philomena in different terms, and envisioned this character and started writing these conversations back and forth between myself and her. And it tells the story of that year of my life that I was supposed to die, but managed to live through, told through conversations between myself and the woman who I was supposed to be.
Yeah. If you had to say, if you're looking at 22-year-old you versus you now, what are the differences between you? How have you grown, I guess, between those 2 periods of your life?
22-year-old me, after the strokes, I was under the impression that basically the same thing that happened when I was 9 would happen again. And I was, I can skip a couple steps because now I know what to do. All I have to do is just go to physical therapy, and I'll eventually get back to a place where, I'm back to a relative baseline, right? And I realized very, very quickly that physical exertion would induce seizures. And that was something that was new to me. And I was like, how am I supposed to get better if I keep on having these seizures, and these seizures keep on making me feel worse? And so in terms of 22-year-old me was looking to get back to what I was before my second and third strokes, right? because that
Yeah.
was the peak of my health in terms of after my first stroke, right? And now I'm not interested in getting back there because getting back there is not, a place that I can actually get to, and
Yeah.
it's not a place that I'm interested in getting to. I'm happy with my new baseline, and I'm happy with respecting my body's limitations. If if I've worked for too long and my body starts, shutting down on me and telling me, yo, you've done too much work, you need to take a rest, I'll take a rest,
Correct. Yeah.
whereas 22-year-old me would be like, push through, no pain, no gain, you have to power through, you have to soldier through, you have to just keep on pushing. And now I'm a lot more pacing,
Yeah.
resting, working, doing different things, doing physical therapy, and just figuring out a system that works for my body. And that may work now, and then maybe later I may need to figure out a different system that works at a later time. But yeah, I'm not so much trying to get to a place of where I used to be. I'm accepting of where I am, and I'm happy and I'm proud of where I am.
Yeah. Good for you. I think that's so important. It's so important to listen to yourself. It's so important to listen to your body. I mean, it took me forever to realize that because your body doesn't lie. You know, my peak of stress, I didn't listen to myself, and then my body was not gonna listen. Well, you know what? Let me show you something. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's so important to just just pay attention to what your body's saying and your intuition. My little tips of living your life. Your intuition will never lead you on the wrong path. You got to listen to it.
Mhm. Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And one thing that I think 22-year-old me wanted was a, a conventional 9 to 5 and doing my art on the side on the weekends and on the evenings. But then after a lot of trial and error, I figured out that that wasn't an accessible, career path for me,
Yeah.
and I needed to figure out something that was more accessible for me and to focus on accessibility for me and my body as the priority and to make everything else revolve around
Yeah.
that.
And you do art full time? Is
No,
that your full time
no,
gig?
that's not my full time. I mean, I do art part time, but I also have other part time gigs. Because the art does not make enough to to do full time. Yeah. But yeah. So I got some part time gigs with business management. I do some personal assistant work. And I also do a lot of different art related things as well. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, I think in this time you gotta, do many things. But I believe that you could keep it around what you love to do though. So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
be
yeah,
you're
yeah.
an artist, but I could be an admin assistant for maybe a film company and I'm still in
Mhm.
the realm of being creative, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah, no,
very important.
definitely, definitely. And also, it is so important to, be an artist and be within the realm of doing something that, is within the realm of creativity. But also, I've been talking to some of the other residents of this residency that I'm doing right now, and some of them were saying that they really, really having a job that has nothing at all to do with art, because that way they're able to do their job and sort of not really think about the art while they're doing their job. And their job
Yeah.
is just a clock in, clock out. And then once they're working on the art, they can fully concentrate on the art because the job and the art don't really
Yeah.
have any overlap. And so I'm not saying that because I know a lot of people who do have jobs within the arts and who that is really, really a thing that is great for them. But it's also up to each their own, and you need to figure out which model, works best for you as a
Yeah.
person because we're each individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since you released your book, how has that changed your life?
Completely. I remember talking to you about when we met about,
Yeah.
about working on my book, and I did not imagine it to become what it became. So I released it And I had a book launch, and the book launch was successful. And I was published through this independent Canadian publisher called Discovering Diversity Publishing. I'll always have to shout out, even though they folded during the pandemic, they were an amazing partner to work with. And I sold, books at the book launch, and I also did a Kickstarter so I could own the rights, and I shipped out quite a few books through that as well, which was successful. And then I got my first opportunity to do a paid performance at this venue, the venue that you introduced me to. And then I was talking to one of my friends at the book launch. No. I bumped into him at because he was playing at this jazz club, and I went to go watch him. And he was telling me, the book launch is so successful. What's next? A tour? And I was like, what do you mean a tour? I'm nowhere near successful or established enough to do it. Because I was thinking book tours are for people, who have entire big marketing teams behind them and, publicity teams behind them. And I'm doing this independently. My publisher is great, but they don't have a marketing or publicity team or, a booking agent or anything like that. But then once I got that first booking, what would it take to get others? And so I just started emailing people. And honestly, I lied. I told people that I have a 20-city book tour booked, and I'd love to add your city to the date. And I only had the one show. That was it. All I had was the one show. But the truth became even greater than that, because I ended up doing 45 city, 5-country book tour across the US, Canada, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. And it was amazing. And the book was so well received by every single place that I brought it to. The book is now in all these prestigious places, the Library of Congress, it's in Princeton, it's in Columbia University, it's and all these amazing, prestigious libraries in the Library and Archives of Canada. And it's, for me, what's been most important is the response back home in Uganda, because I'm Ugandan, and I really, really wanted my book to be seen and, heard and read by Ugandans. And it's a Ugandan bestseller, a bunch of Ugandan book clubs have, discussed it and invited me in. And I've received messages from Ugandans telling me how much they love the book and how great it is. And so it completely changed my life. I did not imagine this going in, and I was expecting to sell maybe 100, 200 copies max, and call it a day. But now, I've been on TV, I've been on the radio, I've been on newspapers, and internationally. And so it took me places that I could never have imagined.
Yeah. That's so amazing, because I just remember you say, writing this book, it's the first book. I never wrote a book before, and I've never been published. And it's figuring it out, but I'm going to put it out, So when you did, I'm proud of this guy. He actually stuck to his guns. He put it out, and then, you did your show, and then I checked or your Facebook, and I would see, he's touring here. He's doing this. Wow, this is dope. I'm so happy for him. So it's amazing. So see, people, if you have a dream, just go with it. Be fearless. Don't do it scared, as I always say. So,
yeah, no, definitely.
It's gonna take you.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you for that. Because I had no idea what I was doing, but I just figured it out as I went along.
Are you working on any other books, or have you released any other books?
So I released a mixtape, which is through this American independent record label called Hello America Stereo Cassette. It's called Songs from and To. And it leads the lines between spoken word poetry and hip hop. That was released last year. And I've done quite a few shows in support of it. It's sold really well. I'm happy with, the response that it's got. I was nominated for 2 Ugandan Hip Hop Awards. It's been on the radio in, Kampala and Montreal, all these different radio stations. I've been interviewed across newspapers, TV, radio, podcasts, blogs, all about it. And so it's done really well for itself, and I'm really happy with that. And it was also the first time that I was able to officially collaborate with my brother, which had been like a dream of mine since childhood.
Yeah.
And so that was amazing. And I actually have a second book that I will announce actually. I mean, it'll be announced by the time this podcast is out, but I'm gonna officially announce it to the world tomorrow. And that's called Songs for Women. It's the prequel to Songs for Men 2. And yeah, so you just got an exclusive. And
Exciting.
did this one. It's a chapbook. It's released by Gordon Hill Press, who are this independent Canadian publisher. And it sort of interweaves a play with some poetry and some prose, and is discussing toxic masculinity, life in the diaspora, the social construction of gender, and a whole bunch of other issues that I wanted to explore through the book. So there's things definitely that have come out recently and things that are about to come out.
And right now you're doing the residencies?
Yeah, right now I'm doing the residencies. So I did my first one where I'm full-time living with the other residents in Tennessee in September to October. I received a fellowship and a support grant to support the residency, and that one was amazing. And all of this is working towards a play that I'm writing as well. And so now I'm doing this residency called McDowell, which I'll be here for 6 weeks. I've done 2.5 so far. And this one's been amazing. I have just got so much work done on my play as well as my other various projects that I'm, cooking up. And I recently got accepted to this play development program, which will lead to a dramatized reading of my play with a professional director and professional actors in New York in June. So I have that to look forward to as well. So now I'm doing the residencies because I have another one from next year, from February to March. It's 3 back-to-back residencies, and McDowell is a super prestigious one. When I look at the list of people who've received it in the past, James Baldwin, Audre Lorde, Nancy Coates, Susan Laurie Parks, Eve Ewing, Ross Gay, all these legends who I look up to, and so the fact that I'm walking down the same path that they were, there's a picture of James Baldwin in the library here in 1954, and I'm here in 2024, And I just recently found out that I'm the first ever Ugandan to be a McDowell Fellow, which is surreal. So, yeah, it's a blessing.
Wow, that's amazing. I love hearing this. Do you feel everything that's happened was sort of destiny? This was written for you to be where you are now?
The thing is, look, whenever anybody asked me when I was a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always said I want to be an author, and people would be like, oh, that's cute, but in my mind at the time as a child, because my dad went to the office and because my mom did a lot of jobs throughout my childhood. She was a nurse, she was a tailor, she was a professional chef, she was a teacher, but all of these was going to some place to work, And so I was under the assumption that the people who wrote the books that I love went to, the writing job and, went in, wrote, and then went back home to their families, right? I didn't realize that being a writer was the career that it is, where it's basically just figuring stuff out by your own. And if you make it into that 1%, then you're set. But most of us have, side hustles and side jobs and stuff that we're doing to figure stuff out. And so I always knew that I wanted to write. But I never knew that I'd be writing across all these different, mediums, doing theater, doing music, doing comics, I've always loved comics since I was a child. And the fact that now I'm a professional paid comics writer is a dream come true, doing poetry, doing fiction, doing nonfiction, having, 2 books out and 1 mixtape. These are dreams of mine from such a long time ago that part of me thought they might be possible way down the line, but I didn't think they'd be possible as quickly as they came. And so I think there definitely is a huge part of manifesting and speaking things into existence. Because just the more that I talk about what I do, the more these things, it comes with a lot of failure, you know? That's something that I don't
Yep.
really talk about, but I think that, but I should talk about more because I was talking to a friend of mine and she was, oh, you're always winning. You're always doing all these amazing things. And I'm, oh, you don't realize that for every opportunity that I get 99 rejections, you know?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you're not seeing, you know, all the failures that I get because I'm not publicly advertising them. And so I'm going to try to do a better job of publicly advertising my failures because I'm realizing that people have this warped perception that if I, you know, apply to something that's an instant, Mugabe's going to get it,
Yeah,
you know, when that's not the truth. The norm is rejection 99% of the time. Yeah, and I just have to keep shooting my shot until I eventually land somewhere.
absolutely. And I think, it's persistence. Persistence is everything. You work at it and you keep, one of my mentors or one of the interviewers I did, also I look at him as a mentor, Chris Caparo. Hello, Chris. He says, do the work or shut the fuck up. Pardon my French, but it's, yeah, you got to keep working at it and you got to put it out there. And yeah, you're going to get millions of no's, but every no leads to that yes. It's just a matter of being, because there's a lot of people, and you think about it, who will do something and they get one no and then they're like, it ain't gonna work out. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meant for the weak. You got to keep going and going, and you're gonna get a few slaps, but just dust yourself up and get up and just keep going at it.
Exactly. And with me, I expect the no. And so when I send something out, I'm all right, on to the next one because I'm not even thinking about what it is. And when I get the no, I'm all right, that's okay because I was expecting it. And so when I get the yes, it's, oh my goodness, this is a great surprise. I was not expecting this at all. Because the no's used to get to me. They used to really get to me and they used to discourage me. But then when I realized by talking to fellow artist friends just how common no's are and just how much you have to just keep on applying to as many opportunities as you can, then I realized that it's a numbers game, and unless you're, very, very well famous, established, the 1% of these artists that I'm talking about, then the no's will keep on coming. And you just have to keep on.
You have to keep going. Yeah, everybody is where they are, not because they were lucky. It's because they just kept going at it. Yeah. My nephew who's 25 says to me, failure is not a bad thing. Failure is more of a lesson learned.
Exactly.
You only fail if you don't try at all.
Exactly.
That is so true.
Exactly. My sister tells me failure is not final.
Yeah. Exactly. I totally believe that. You just kind of have to roam the world, just be fearless in everything that you do. If you had to go back in time, a time machine, what would 32-year-old Mugabi say to 9-year-old Mugabi?
I wouldn't want to necessarily give any spoilers to my life because 9-year-old Mugabi was often thinking about what would it be if I met myself, at a later age, and I always had this image of myself. And the image actually is pretty close to what I am right now, which is strange to think about. But what I would tell a younger version of myself, 9-year-old Mugabi, is I would tell 9-year-old Mugabi that, your life has irrevocably changed because of this stroke, it's here to stay. I'd advise myself to ask my parents to see a therapist at an early age because I believe that would have benefited me at the time. I would tell 9-year-old Mugabi that the anger that I'm feeling is valid and that I shouldn't turn it inwards towards myself. I would tell 9-year-old Mugabi that my disabilities do not make me inferior. They make me different, but not inferior. I would tell 9-year-old Mugabi that you are loved by many, many people and that the love that you have for yourself is very, very important. So always cultivate that and always kindle that self-love. And I would tell Nana Mugabi that, you're going to go through a lot of changes, and they're going to be difficult ones. And sometimes you won't be able to overcome everything, but
Yes,
you'll always be able to figure out ways to manage.
absolutely. Would you say you're living your best life?
Honestly, at this point, yeah, 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 yeah. I'd say I'm living my best life. I mean, I have my fair share of challenges. I wish that I wasn't in pain. I wish I wasn't fatigued, dealing with all these things. But the fact that in New Hampshire at this residency that would cost $450 a day if I paid for it, but it's all paid, thanks to this fellowship. This is an opportunity that I could not have imagined me receiving. The fact that I'm surrounded by all these fellow artists who are also inspirational with their artistic
Yeah.
practice, but also beyond that, they're also such kind and caring people. Like during my flare up over the weekend, all I had to do was send a message to the group chat and immediately, what do you need? Let's get dinner to you. Do you need us physically there? All these messages just of support, and all these people, they really love me and they really care for me. And when I came to dinner on Sunday, they were like, we missed you. We love you. We want you to know that. And these are people who I've known for some a couple of days, some 2.5 weeks, and so these are people who I'm planning on staying in touch with, and all the staff are incredibly kind and caring, and we worked out a plan. They've been incredibly just generous during my time here. And so yeah, I would say I'm living my best life. It has its ups and downs, but even during its downs, I still find ways to find joy daily, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, definitely. So just winding down, where can people find you?
So people can find me. So my website is the one-stop shop. So that's mugabibyenkya.com. That's MUGABIBYENKYA.com. On my website, you'll find a link to everything that I've had that's been published, my books and my mixtape. You'll be able to find them and purchase them there. You'll be able to read all the short form pieces, the essays and the poetry and the little things that I've had published in different places, the comics, etc. You'll be able to find all the interviews that I've done. You'll be able to find all my past tour dates. And you'll be able to find my social media links. My Facebook is Mugabi Byenkya. That's MUGABI space BYENKYA. I have both a Facebook profile and a Facebook page. You can either add me as a friend or follow the page or do both. My Instagram is at Mugabs. That's MUGABS. And my Twitter or X is at Mugabsb. That's MUGABSB. But once again, all of those three are at the bottom of my website.
And I'll have those links in the YouTube and at the end credits as well. So go check them out, folks. All right. So that is it. I want to thank you so much. It was so nice catching up and, so honored. I'm such a big fan of you. And I can't wait till the next book comes out. I'm definitely going to pick up a copy. And I got to get the mixtape as well. I saw it's an actual tape too. I was like, ooh,
yeah. It's on tape.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah. And the tape comes with a free digital album, so there multiple ways of listening to it. But also my label also sells tape decks or cassette players as well. So yeah. So if
I'm going back old school.
Exactly. Ever since they put my tape out, I've become now a tape collector. And now I'm looking out for people who are putting out tapes, and I'm you're putting out a tape, I'm gonna buy it because I have a Walkman, and I have a way of listening to tapes again, and it's amazing. Yeah.
I just remember back in those days when you had a song that you go back and rewind, but you had to look at the counter to yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out. Thanks again. So make sure, guys, that you write a comment. Let me know what you think about this interview in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, to share, and to until next month, I will catch you on the flip side. Peace out.